Alright, hello. This will be a video on how to get your GameCube adapter working with your Steam games. It will start with the installation of the GameCube adapter drivers and end with the setup of the Xbox 360 controller emulator. If you wish to skip over this portion of the video, there will be timecodes in the description. So firstly, the drivers. I've recently uninstalled mine, so this will be a completely fresh install guide. You must go to this website, which will be linked, and you will get the newest version, which is 3.2.1 right here. And after that is finished downloading, you will open up the file location and run the installer. This newest version is a lot more user-friendly than the old versions. You just have to run it and, click next. There's only one real part you must pay attention to. I would create a desktop icon here because I would use it a lot. You have to open it every time you want to use the adapter drivers to use your controller. So if you use it a lot, I recommend creating a desktop icon. That is optional, however. Right here you press install. It is installing all of the needed files in the folder. This is the important part. This is vital. Do not make a mistake here. Make sure in this drop down menu you select WUP028, and then this will either say reinstall driver or replace driver depending on whether you had one installed before or not. Click that, making sure you have WUP028 again. It is installing the driver right now, and it was installed successfully. Now another menu should be popping up shortly that is related to something else. VJoy, I believe. Yes, after you close it, it opens the VJoy device driver. This is relatively easy. You just go click next through all of them, and it is installing the VJoy drivers. And with that, it should be done. Yes. Pay no mind to that error message, by the way. For Windows 8 users, there is an additional step you must take. Go to the file location where you install all your stuff, which would be the C drive, program files, x86, and the GCN adapter. And you will find the GCN USB feeder.exe. Right click it, go to properties, compatibility, and make sure you have these checked. Run in compatibility mode for Windows 7 and run as administrator. This is a step that is specifically for Windows 8 users. With that, you can restart and you have your Windows adapter drivers. Alright, this is after I restarted, after downloading the newest version of the GameCube adapter drivers. At this point, I am able to use these drivers to play Dolphin, Visual Boy, and about any other emulator that supports direct input. But if you wish to use your GameCube controllers to play Steam games, there is an extra step you must take, and that is using this program, X360CE. This allows our GameCube controller to be read as a Xbox 360 controller, because some games only support the Xbox 360 controller. Now before you do anything with this controller emulator, I recommend having all necessary files. It's very common for someone who is setting up X360CE to hear error messages saying, "Oh, you're missing such and such file." The most common one is apparently this file. I will link this, and I highly recommend you update this before even trying to set up your Xbox 360 controller emulator. Once you have that up to date, I recommend downloading both the 64-bit and the 32-bit version from the top right. Alright, after that is done, open the file locations for these downloads. You'll find two zip files. Now I recommend, for organization purposes, you create a new folder called X360CE and place both of these zip files into that folder. Now, in this folder, I recommend again to create two new folders, one labeled 32-bit and one labeled 64-bit. This will come in handy later. Place the 64-bit version, which is labeled with X64, into the 64-bit folder and the other one to the 32-bit folder. We will start with 64-bit. Once you're inside, you may extract your files into this folder. Once you have extracted it, run the program. It will see that you are missing the config files. Now just click create and you're good. This part had me wondering for about 10 minutes what to do because the same messages keep popping up. What you do is just click search automatically for settings and search the internet. Because someone else has already configured their GameCube controllers, all you have to do is go through all of these messages and click the same setting. And you see how it moves from controller 1 to controller 2 to controller 3? Do this for all 4 controllers. Now, after you finish the 4th controller, it should be done. It should be green. And this creates 2 configuration files inside here. I recommend deleting the zip file after you extracted the .exe from it. Now, from here, you basically have the general overlay. So if I start my GameCube adapter driver right here, I should be able to start up the drivers, and once my controller works, I am moving my GameCube controller and it is registering as Xbox 360 controller inputs. Now, what I recommend is going to left thumb and setting the anti-dead zone to around 80%, I believe, and the dead zone to about 30%. And do this for all of your sticks for all 4 controllers. Alright. Alright, as one can see, I have configured the analog stick for all 4 controllers. So now, with the config files we got from the internet, we now have an Xbox 360 controller emulator for 64-bit games. After you configure the analog sticks for all 4 controllers, click Save and exit the program. Now, do the same exact thing for the 32-bit version. You extract it, you open it, you create the config files, and then you just take the config files you get off the internet by clicking next, finish, etc. And then, after all of this is done, config the analog sticks, and you have the 32-bit version as well. After you set up your 32-bit version, you should have something that looks like this. You have an X360CE folder with a 32-bit version and a 64-bit version folder, and each folder has 3 files. These 3 files are all you need to play the Steam games. Say, I'm going to use Castle Crashers as an example. It has controller support for the Xbox 360, but it doesn't support the GameCube controller natively. So if I want to play Castle Crashers, what do? I'll just copy the files from either 32-bit or 64-bit folders, depending on what the game is. If it's a 32-bit game, copy the 32-bit files. If it's a 64-bit game, copy the 64-bit files. After you have copied the files, go to where the game is. It should be in local disk C program files, x86, let's see, Steam, and from here, Steam apps, common, and here are all your Steam games. So if you want to set up controller support for Castle Crashers, you go in here and you just paste your files, and then that's it. Once you run Castle Crashers, it should support your controller natively. Now, some of you may ask, how can you tell if a game is 32-bit or 64-bit? Well, there is a convoluted way, but what you can do is just paste whatever you think it is in. So let's say I thought Castle Crashers was 64-bit. Then you open up X360CE, and if it's a 32-bit game, it says this. This folder contains a 32-bit game. You should use a 32-bit X360CE. So I actually chose the wrong files. So what I should do is delete these files, go back to my downloads, go back to this folder, and instead copy the 32-bit version that supports my 32-bit Steam games. And then I'll go back to my Steam games folder, go back to Castle Crashers, and paste in the correct files. After this, when you open Castle Crashers, it will support your controller natively. This works for pretty much every Steam game. You just have to get the 32-bit and the 64-bit versions right. Alright, I will leave all guides I have used for reference in the description. You can refer to those if you have any further issues, and have fun using your GameCube controller on Steam. Goodbye.